Let's take a look at the command line on Windows. This is kind of an unnatural operation. Most of us don't use the command line much anymore with Windows, but you're going to need to know how to use it to do some of the programming tasks that we're going to be performing. The command line on Windows dates back to early version of the operating system called DOS, or Disk Operating System. MS-DOS, Microsoft DOS, was one of the first widely available commercial operating systems for desktop computers, and so it's kind of a clunky system. I'll be honest with you, it's not as slick as the graphical user interface. Most of what we're going to be doing with the command line is things to files, moving files around, creating files and folders. And so let's look at how we do that now with the graphical user interface, or the GUI. I have Windows Explorer open up here, not to be confused with the Explorer browser, which that's a whole other topic of discussion. This is how we look at files, and this should be familiar to you if you use Windows. I have it open to just my home directory. Oh, by the way, directories and folders are two words for essentially the same thing. There are some subtle differences, but they really don't matter for us. So I'm going to be using the terms folder and directory interchangeably. So if you wanted to create a place for your Python programs, you might want to put it in the Documents folder. So I'm going to double click on Documents. And you might do something like right-clicking on this screen and creating a new folder and calling it Python code. So I create a new folder or directory inside of the folder called Documents, and then I can double click on this, and of course it's empty because we haven't put anything in there. And then if I want to go back, I can go up here and double click on Documents, single click actually on Documents, or on this PC, and I can bounce around and take a look at different layers of this graphic user interface for files. So back at the desktop, there are actually several command lines that are associated with Windows 10. We'll be using the one called CMD. So to get into it, you can just go to your little search box and type CMD, and you'll get a little black icon with white letter text. That's your command prompt. The others that you could certainly take a look at are, one is called Command, and one is called PowerShell. They each have their own pluses and minuses. Command is actually a 16-bit program. Not that you need to know that. Whereas CMD is a 32-bit version of the command line interface. And PowerShell has a lot of the tools that we talk about with the Mac OS and Linux built into it. So it's essentially a light version of Linux built right on top of the Windows command line. So all those are great. All those are fun. You can certainly experiment with them at your leisure. For the purposes of this course and this assignment, the one that is probably easiest to use is just called CMD. So type CMD and hit enter, and it will pop up a command prompt window. So now I have both windows side by side here. On the left we have the command line. On the right we have the File Explorer. The File Explorer is in the Documents directory, and I want to get into the Documents directory on the command line. So the first thing we have to do is figure out where we are. And the command to do that is echo, E-C-H-O, space, %, CD, %. If I do that, it tells me I'm in C:/users/Trevor S. You'll notice that the command prompt actually also tells me where I'm at. So we really don't have to use that echo command very often, but I want you guys to know about it. Now, the command for changing directories from where I'm at on the command line to where I want to go is CD. So if I want to go into the Documents directory, I'm going to type cd space documents. If I want to go back to the directory immediately above where I was at, so if I want to go from documents to users Trevor S, then I can do cd space dot dot. And you'll see that moves me back up one level. But I, of course, want to go back into documents. Now, to display the files and directories in this directory, I'm going to use the command dir, which stands for directory. Go figure. And you'll see that I get the information. These files, and actually most of them are folders, except for this test.py, are in this directory. So that matches exactly what I'm seeing over here in the File Explorer, right? So 3D printing, AIDA64 reports, archives, Camtasia. So those directories are the same in both windows. That means I'm in the same directory on both of these. Now, we already determined that if you want to go into Python code on this side, you double click it and you go into an empty directory. So on this side, to get in there, I've got to do the same thing. I go cd Python code and hit enter. And that puts me in /user/Trevor S/documents/Python code. And if I do a dir here, we see nothing. If I wanted to create a directory, go to New, and I'll create a new folder in here because they're easier to create from the menu. So I'll do a new folder, and it's called new folder. We'll just leave it as new folder. And then I went into that new folder, and it is empty. But if I go back up one level, new folder. So if I do a dir now, you'll see that there is indeed a folder in there called new folder, or a directory called new folder. There's only one more thing that I want to show you about the command line, and that is how to run a Python program from the command line. If I don't have any Python programs in this directory called Python code, which is ironic since that's where we're actually going to put the Python program files when we create them. But I did notice that if I go up one level, cd dot dot, and do a dir, and spell it correctly, dir, that I have a Python file called test.py. And so if I want to run that, I just have to type Python and then the name of the file, in this case test.py, and it will run that Python file. If you just want to make sure that you have Python installed correctly from the command line, type the word Python and -- the word version. And this will give you the current version of Python you have installed on your computer that it can see and find. In this case, mine was version 3.9.2. Yours may differ, and as long as it's 3 something, we don't care. That's about all I have to tell you about the command line. You're going to become good friends with the command line in the course of this class. But like I said, mainly to do things with files and to run programs, Python programs on the command line. Thank you.